Soul Dope 95 beats in the background. Secret House Against. Album reviews. We're here. You guys know us. Please hit the like, subscribe, bell for notifications,
Comment.
Patreon if you're into that. Comment. We also love that too.
Patreon.com/secrethouseagainst15.
Yeah, Secret House Against 15. Yeah, today me and Jet are here. Shout out to our man L Spade, still on sabbatical. Be back soon, hopefully. But we're here today to discuss the Deem Spencer album, the new Deem Spencer album, AdultSw. It is 12 songs, 39 minutes long. Deem Spencer is a producer, MC, poet type person from Jamaica, Queens. I think this is his fourth album. I'm not quite sure. I know we have We Think We Alone, Pretty Face, Deem's Tape, and Deem's Tape was one of my favorites the first year we did Secret House. So yeah. As I do, since we haven't discussed Deem Spencer together, I like to talk about how we're familiar with him and his art. And yeah. So how do you know him?
I feel like you put me on.
Okay.
Probably onto the We Alone joint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I think I found out about him. It might have been an algorithm type of thing. I'm not exactly sure, but I remember the first thing that really stuck with me is he had a video for this song called Soap.
Yeah.
And it was maybe 2019, something like that. But the video was really creative. His rhyme style was really creative. His wordplay was really dope to me, and I became a big fan after that. He's got a variety of videos that are just kind of like really creative, and I thought, man, this kid is like a total package. He's really good at the production. His artistic vision is fucking dope, and I've been a big fan of him ever since. More recently, I feel like he kind of falls into a mumbly singing style.
Yes.
But when he actually raps, I'm a fucking huge fan. He's got this track with Madani called Voyager, and he really gets off. I just like his rhyme style, and I think that he's wildly poetic with it at times. So yeah, I've been a big fan of him for a whole minute. Yeah, Deem Spencer for sure. You want to get into the album?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah. yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, it's. I like it well enough. I feel like I've been using that phrase a lot on Secret House recently. I like it well enough. Production on here is really, really good. It's almost got like an alternative rock indie kind of vibe to it, almost like a bit of an Animal Collective or Radiohead-ish kind of vibe to it in places. Just, a very kind of different approach, I think, compositionally, to some of the more conventional hip-hop kind of production that we've seen in his previous work and other stuff in a similar kind of weight class to Deem Spencer.
A lot of variety on
A lot of variety as well, very varied, very lush, very beautiful in places. Lyrically, pretty interesting, confessional, very open, quite loving. I think this is, a very kind of intelligent and introspective person kind of putting their thoughts out there. That said, I really can't get past this style of singing. I think there's a lot of, and I understand that this is more of a personal take than like any kind of objective criticism for whatever that means. But on the final track of the album, which is the Sun singing outro featuring Eliza Moon, he actually like enunciates while he's singing. On some of the other tracks, I guess he's trying to put across like a weariness or like a kind of almost sleepiness, because the whole album has a very kind of dreamy vibe.
Sure. It feels like his rhyme is always like the end of his bar is always like a falling intonation.
Yes.
Kind of like it's a very dreary kind of tired rhyme like approach. But
he
I get that.
Enunciates a lot of his words like this. And
Yeah.
Just kind of,
I think that's one of the charms for me. That's one of the things I really like about his style. I get that it's kind of mumbly, and it also is kind of difficult to hear some of like the words, but I think that in a lot of cases he also plays that like intentionally, where you'll have like a hominin type of ending where then it could go either way depending on how you hear it.
And rather than like jackknifing a rhyme into it, Eminem style porn type thing, he kind of just semi rhymes it, kind of papers it off, and he does that with a lot of elegance, and I do respect the artistic decision behind that type of singing, I just kind of find it annoying.
Word. I think that's reasonable enough. For me, I really do enjoy the album for, I enjoy his rap style. He's very contemplative, meditative. He's really reflective rhymer. He gets really into a kind of poetic lane with some of the way that he approaches these verses, and many of them are laid out in the similar way that you would read like poetic stanzas.
Yes.
And there's a variety, there's varying degrees of depth to some of them. Some of the songs, like for example on Baby Boy, number 3, which is about his uncle in New York in the 80s, like the first verse is about the uncle, starts selling drugs, running the digit up, and then years later, it's like the second verse after that is like years later and the consequences of that. And the way that he starts off by laying out the verse, like, his grandmother had a son, my mother's only brother, my only uncle by blood. He uses that kind of same refrain in the second verse, and then finally at the end of the second verse, he kind of punctuates it like, my grandma was his mom. And the way that he kind of approaches some of these rhymes is just really interesting to me, and it really is poetic. But then again, some of the themes on this album about like him being, living past 27 and this kind of artist thing, some of them I feel like I've been waiting for Deem Spencer to kind of grow up some, because some of his music seems very youthful and exuberant, and he's so introspective that you would think like, oh yeah, like he's going to figure it out. Yeah. But this album is about him being almost 27, and some of the themes some of the stuff I just don't really doesn't stick for me.
I do, and you just kind of touched on it. I do really like there is this kind of, not necessarily theme of like generation, but like this idea of like cause and effect and things kind of moving into one another. Obviously you have Baby Boy, how far we've come. The kids are listening. Even just from the titles, you can see how there is this idea of, this cause and effect, what happens in the past and how it reflects on the present, and how what he is doing is informed by what has come before. And I think thematically that works really, really well on the album. I quite enjoyed some of the themes on this record personally. Yeah. Maybe it's because I'm closer to his age, and I can relate to a lot of it. But I think thematically the album's pretty solid.
It is like front to back. Like I don't really feel like any of these are like bad or boring songs, but some of them just don't stick for me personally. There's more than a handful of them that do. The Mavi track, How Far We've Come, The Kids Are Listening. I really like those are like rapping tracks. Yes. You know what I mean? Whereas some of them are a little bit different.
Those are my 2 personal favorite tracks on the album as well, which probably reflects on my distaste towards that type of singing that he's doing on the album. People always talk about people like singing in cursive, which Davion, the feature on there, really, really does. She does that kind of bananas, avocados type singing, which is just not something I personally care for. But no, I think, for the most part, certainly when the album does lean a bit more into conventional rap formats, I think it really does shine. But I also think that it's dope that he's like willing to explore those avenues and kind of risk alienating fans in order to kind of put out what he's feeling.
Right. There's also, it's an uncanny type of vibe. Like some of these, one of the things I noticed about the album, to me, it felt like a lot of the production sounds that he were using were like unprocessed. It sounds kind of like the straight, like you turn it on and you go to drums and you hit it and it sounds like almost like Fisher Pricey kind of like.
There's a childlike wonder and whimsy to the record. Even the title, Adult Swim. Yeah. I don't even know if we've mentioned the album title in this video.
Did I say? I said it at the beginning, right?
I hope
Maybe
so.
I just said that. Okay.
No, I think you did. I think you did. There's the exclamation mark with the I. For someone who's around the same age, like I see Adult Swim as both when I was like a teenager and I was kind of like, oh man, this is real cool, like, Samurai Champloo, but at the same time, like from the lens of an adult kind of looking back like, oh yo, this was something that was like, formative for me. Word. It was the first time I heard Flying Lotus.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, they were really pushing it. I mean, Yeah, they were really pushing it back then. I don't know if they still are, but shout out to like Xavier, Renegade Angel.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, yeah. The album is, I really do like it. I just walked away from it saying like, man, I keep on waiting to have an album from him that feels like something that he wants to put out. I don't know if that's coming across right. Like, I kind of feel like a lot of his albums are just like, I've cobbled this together and here it is. I'm not sure about anything. And this one feels a little bit more formed. In fact, I thought that perhaps cohesive, it was a. Yeah. In fact, I thought this was a like major type of. I thought this might have been associated with Adult Swim, just given the damn name. But you know, it's really good. I don't know. I might not have been in the mood to listen to it when it came on, because as I listen to this song now, I'm like, oh yeah, I really do like this. I like how Mavi gets off on this. I'm thinking about these songs as we're playing them, because we were supposed to record this like last Wednesday and we didn't have the time. But like, listen to these beats, right? Doesn't that sound kind of Fisher Pricey?
Yeah. It's I that snare, it's not even really a snare, it's like a woodblock or something. I'm pretty sure I can identify which like preset that is. And
there's this weird balance of that. Like then it gets really lush. I think he's also I think he's fairly competent on a piano. Yes. Deem Spencer. A lot of his music has a lot of piano runs and interesting
some pretty
sounds.
Elaborate chord progressions and stuff. Actually, the last time I listened to this record before we got together to record this, I was buying a birthday present for my girlfriend, and I was in one of those very fancy department stores in Harajuku, where they've got like the MoMA store and then like some fancy like stuff, stuff that sell like fancy things that you don't really need. And listening to that album, like while walking through this aisle of these like very beautiful and expensive trinkets, it almost felt like a little kid again. It was almost Christmassy. Like that was the vibe I got, like the Christmas lights around you, and just kind of embodying that kind of childhood
I can see it.
Sensation.
Deem does have a sense of wonder to his music, man, and kind of like he seems I want to say he seems wise beyond his age, but he's like 27, so it's like if he was 20, I'd be like, yeah, this kid is brilliant. In fact, I was saying that when years ago when he was closer to 20. But man, the moments on this album, like sometimes the stuff that comes pouring out his verses is just really beautiful to me. This song right here that starts off with that woodblock shit, like when I heard it, I got chills. I was like, man, that's fucking deep. Like this
string swells as well.
And it's a very straightforward song. It's like, yo, yeah, my mom, my uncle, my only uncle, he was doing shit in the 80s. And then he was doing other shit in the 80s and it fucked up for him. And I don't even know how, like, it's a beautiful love letter to kind of that experience and like the love he has for his grandmother and kind of the introspection that he has, like about his life and about life in general and how fragile it can be and how deep blood is. Like the last verse on the opener, Yawn, he's fucking going off and he's just really good for that. I actually love this album. It's just a few pieces on it that I don't like. There's when you have like an album that you really like and it's like, man, this would be a 10 if I just removed those songs. Yeah. There's just like 4 or 5 songs on this that I kind of just don't care about at all of the 12. But the other ones, man, like I could talk more and more about each one of these things. Like the end verse on that, The Kids Are Listening is very fun and upbeat, man. It's really good.
And
it's
I will
really,
concede
really
also just, as someone who doesn't really like the vocal delivery on this, in a vacuum with each individual track, I actually think it's fine. If you played any track off this album to me and was just like, yo, listen to this, I'd be like, oh, yo, this is sick. I think it is just that particular style of vocals over 45 minutes that starts to kind of wear on me after a while.
Yeah. Because his wordplay, man, he is actually really dope at writing. I think people that have an appreciation for poetry, this will probably strike a harder chord for them. People who are more into like singer-songwriters and like the beauty of words more so than like the dopeness of it,
very
like, executed
and songwriterly.
Yeah, and he's just like some of the cadences and the flows that he has, even though they are kind of dreary and they always sound kind of like they're ending on like a falling intonation, he gets fucking freaky with it. And some of his wordplay, I'm like, man, that kid is just nice with the usage of fucking syllables and shit. Like, you know who he reminds me of? And I guess we could, I don't know if you have anything else to say about the album in particular. No. For recommendations, like, you know who he reminds me of? I would recommend this to fans of Y. Not Y band, but like Yoni Wolf from Y band. Like, back when he was rapping, it's very sing-song poetry style, but he has a tendency to just come up with these types of poetic phrasings for very simple ideas that just fucking really works. I would recommend it to fans of to him. I would even recommend this to maybe even Rory fans, Rap Ferreira fans, because I think that tangentially this is a very deeply poetic spirit that Deem Spencer has, and it's one of the things that really just works out for me. On his last album, he has we talk about how like some interludes, like the sideshow, like the interludes are just like whatever. Man, like on Deem's last tape, he has this one where he's talking about like they're in Jamaica and this cab driver, and it's just like a quick story, but man, it's fucking
like a
perfect.
Vignette. Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah. And that type of insight, man, like you can pull so much meaning out of this this 27-year-old man that is just useful. And I think that it will connect with a lot of kids who are not trying to be tough. They're trying to figure out the world, but they're also not like straight up like, oh, I'm into anime. You know what I mean? Like, this kid is deep, and I really like it.
Yeah, I would recommend this to people who are into, people who were like into the Marlon Craft, who are into that kind of more confessional, open, more sensitive type of rap. And I don't mean sensitive in like a Drake way. I mean like actually earnestly sensitive towards, their life situation, the people around them, and their own kind of culture and history. There's a little bit more to chew on something like this than there is on your average, Marlon Craft joint or even sure. like novelists.
Yeah, or he's fucking based, bro. Like he's based. Like to cut you off, because that's exactly what I'm doing. On the song To Have It All, he says, I wanted it all, forgot I gotta give. And by the time I did, all the stuff I wanted gone. I forgot I got it all. The fuck I wanted this for. I must have wanted them to give a fuck about it. And my reading of it doesn't work at all. But his like flow, the way it comes out, man, he's very aware of a lot of the ills in this world, and he just gets the fuck off, man. He's very, very dope. He's not on some bullshit. He's a real artist, and I appreciate that this album is like produced almost entirely with him. I think people recognize it, like Dram, right? That's how you pronounce
Dram's
it.
on there, yeah.
He's a huge artist, isn't he? Or at least he was at some point.
He had like one big hit. He was on the Gorillaz joint as well. Like he's been around. He changed his name for a while and changed it back because I guess that wasn't really catching on.
Sure, but I mean he's on it, and he doesn't outshine He doesn't outshine Deem on it at all. In fact, I really like Deem on that song for it, anyways, man. So Deem Spencer, Adult Swim, Secret House Against.
Like, comment, subscribe. Patreon.com/secrethouseagainst15.
Okay.
Yeah.